you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream.
What up, Dream Team? Coach D here coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego, and welcome back to the Livin the Dream podcast. And today, we are throwing it back. On Throwback Thursday, we dive into some of the best episodes from the archives, packed with timeless strategies to help you crush your health, fitness, and wellness goals. These episodes might be from the past, but the lessons still hit hard today. Whether it's a mindset shift or a fitness tip or a nutrition hack, this throwback is here to remind you just how far you've come and how much further you can go. Today, we're throwing it back to one of our most downloaded episodes, all about unconventional longevity practices that most people overlook. 5 unconventional practices to help you live longer. We're not just talking about working out and eating your veggies. We're diving into next level strategies backed by emerging science and ancient wisdom that could help you live longer and feel better doing it. In this episode, we explore the surprising power of something called grounding and how simply connecting your bare feet to the earth can reduce things like inflammation and improve things like sleep. We also explore how light exposure, especially sunlight, natural sunlight, and things like red light therapy can supercharge your cellular health and regulate your circadian rhythm. We explore why sauna and cold exposure aren't just for athletes. They're powerful tools for metabolic health and longevity. And we look at why water might not just be for hydration, but the quality and structure of your water matters more than you think. If you're ready to think outside of the box, if you're ready to challenge the mainstream health advice, and if you're ready to optimize your health span with tools that most people ignore, this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
All right, y'all. So the older that I get, the more that I think about what kind of life I'm going to have when I reach 80 years old. Do I even want to make it to 80 years old? I think about the elderly people who need to be cared for and who are unable to do things for themselves. And the way that I see it is, I just want to be independent. I want to be strong and I want to be pain-free. I want a better quality of life for as long as possible. I never want to lose my independence or my strength or start having all that chronic pain just constantly nagging you. That's not how I want to spend my later years. There's a new term that I've heard. It was a little while back, and rather than saying I want to live a longer lifespan, it's called living a longer health span. So the idea is that you're living a healthier life for longer, not just living out your years and then having to be cared for at the end. So this is super important, right? We want to be able to be healthy enough to care for ourselves when we get into our later years. Well, I've been doing some research on some things that I currently do right now that really help me feel better on a day-to-day basis, and I just want to share some of the information that I found out. So we're going to list off 5 unconventional things that can be easily implemented into your daily lifestyles that will help you live a longer, better quality health span. So let's start this thing off. And number 1 on the list is earthing or grounding. What's earthing or grounding, right? Sounds kind of funky. Well, it's very rare in today's advanced society that we are in direct contact with the earth. Just a couple generations ago, most of the people doing their day-to-day grind walked and slept with direct contact with the earth. But now we wear shoes or footwear that have rubber soles, disconnecting us from the ground. We work and live in tall buildings and skyscrapers that are highly electrically charged, especially as you move up in the building. In addition, we are in a sea of electrical and electromagnetic environments, from the 2G to 5G spectrum that we have around us all day, to powering from our phones and electronics, to the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth in our homes, to the lights and the microwaves and the air fryers, and all the other appliances that are around us all the time. We tend to forget about those things that we cannot see. When we lose connection with the earth, our bodies start to become more electrically charged. This is not some sort of woo-woo magic stuff. This is actual science. It's been shown that if you live or work in a building, you become more electrically charged as you go up the floors of the building and the longer that you spend up there. This is due to the lack of contact with the earth. Studies show that the buildup in voltage can get up to anywhere from 3 to 10 volts in the human body. However, as soon as you contact yourself with the ground, this number immediately falls down to 0.007 volts, which is because the voltage of the Earth's surface is actually negatively charged. So the surface of the Earth is negatively charged. It has brimming with electrons. Now, according to the charge neutrality principle, the electric charge from the entire Earth is actually zero. And us making skin to earth contact is what we call earthing or grounding, taking all that electrical charge buildup with our modern day lifestyles and then grounding that charge out. Grounding is one of the latest health and wellness trends, but what does it really do? There are over 21 peer-reviewed scientific studies that show when you connect to the earth, your body begins to reverse inflammation. I know this sounds like some hippie stuff, but it's backed up by scientific studies. The Earth's surface has a slightly negative charge, and when it connects with the Earth, it actually calms the body, lowers the viscosity of the blood, and allows our bodies to start to heal and reduce inflammation. It even has been found to increase libido in some, and it has been shown to improve better sleep, which we already know how important sleep is, and it's not just the quantity, but it's the amount of quality sleep that we get in the REM and the deep sleep. And grounding improves our sleep quality. So if you're an electrician, or even if you just know about electrical wiring, you know that for anything that you do to wire up, that electricity needs to have some sort of grounding wire. So here's a fun fact. If you look at any outlet in your house, in the United States at least, you will see two skinny lines at the top and a hole at the bottom for each outlet plug. Well, the hole at the bottom is actually the grounding hole. They have to have this because if there's a short in the wire somewhere, the ground will safely take that electrical current down to the ground and disperse the energy. That way you don't get shocked from any rogue electrical flowing current, potentially causing you major harm. For thousands of years, we have evolved to be close to the Earth's magnetic surface. But over the past, let's say, 100 years or so, we've gotten a little disconnected, right? From the things we put on our feet to the places that we live and to the stresses that we put on our body, over time, our bodies accumulate this positive charge. We've all seen this. When you're running around your house and you have carpet and you're in your socks and you go to touch the doorknob and zap, you get shocked. Well, your body is running on bioelectrical energy and it's too positively charged. And when you touch the right thing, it gives you that electrical shock. You can even be given a large enough shock of energy that can stop all of our electrical processes that come from the muscles like the heart and kill us. We as human beings are meant to be in contact with the Earth's surface, and we are electrical beings. Check this out. What do you think happened when doctors plugged premature babies into the Earth? Well, when premature babies are taken away from their mothers and put into an incubator, you can only imagine the type and the amount of huge stress that they're experiencing. They're in this sympathetic state for far too long, and they get this thing called colics. This is defined as a predictable period of significant distress in an otherwise well-fed, healthy baby. The infants can even be stressed to a point of hyperventilation at times. That's like so sad to think about, a little baby in an incubator hyperventilating. Well, once doctors put a patch on the babies that ground them to the earth, in less than minutes, the babies start to normalize their vagal tone, which calms the autonomic nervous system. And then this parasympathetic nervous system starts to take over and it quiets everything down for them, which makes the infant's stress melt away. That just makes me feel good. That just makes my heart feel good. So according to the directors of a documentary, The Earthing Movie, And other experts of this phenomenon, they prescribe about 10 to 15 minutes or more every day to start seeing benefits. But any amount of time helps. It's so simple, it's so easy, and yes, it's free. All you got to do, get outside, take whatever you have on your feet off, and find direct contact with Mother Earth. The effects of grounding have been found to increase if you're in water too. So if you live next to a beach or a lake, it would be an awesome idea to go walk around in the shallows or dip your feet or even just go for a swim. Give it a shot. I know at least 5 days of the week I'm out there getting 1 hour of contact time with my skin to the earth or more. I try to wear my shoes as little as possible, and the shoes that I do wear are actually minimalist shoes that take all that rubber cushioning away. A lot of people make fun of me for how I'm always in flip-flops or I go straight barefoot, but yeah, it's just how I want to live. I personally wish society was set up for, everyone to accept people not wearing shoes, but that's for another topic and another day. If you find that your body is puffy or achy or tired or inflamed, it could be a great sign that you need some quiet one-on-one time with Mother Earth. So just let me know how it goes for you. The more you do it, the better you feel. Number one on our list of the 5 unconventional things that you can do to help you live longer is grounding or earthing. And number 2 on this list could actually go hand in hand with that. Number 2 is actually light. Light has been with us since the beginning of the earth, but scientists really started to explore its effects of light when Sir Isaac Newton started to split light into a prism. Newton greatly contributed to the development of science of optics by collecting technology on lenses, prisms, mirrors, telescopes, and microscopes. In a paper presented in 1672, long time ago, he announced his new theory of light and color, in which he proclaimed that a light is a mixture of various colors having different refractivity, rather than the pure white sunlight proposed by Aristotle. And he demonstrated this theory of the famous prism experiment where he shot a light through an object and it refracted that light into a bunch of different colors. So that was 1672. Now, in 1704, about 30 years later, he authored a book called Optics, Opticks, where he revealed his light particle theory. Dude, I wish I could have been friends with these guys back in the day. Can you imagine coming up with all of this stuff? That's insane. But for millions of years, we lived outside, and then all of a sudden we go to living inside. Especially when you think of the industrialization age in London and the UK, where they started to work in the mines. We had a lot of pollution, and that pollution polluted the skies, and we lost that powerful light that comes from the sun. And just like some people's lives today, those people could go their entire life without seeing the sun. They would go to work in the darkness, work in the dark factories, work in the dark mines. They would go back home into a dark home, never seeing the sun. And if a life in darkness wasn't bad enough, the children of the parents of these dark lives, they started to be born with rickets. Rickets is a nasty disease that affects mainly children caused by a vitamin D deficiency. It's characterized by an imperfect calcification, softening, and distortion of the bones, typically resulting in bow legs. What they found was that when the mother and the father are both deficient in this vitamin D, this created the perfect storm to pass it down to their children. At that time, nobody really connected the amount of light that the parents were getting to the kids getting rickets. But then they started to look at other countries like India, where they had different lifestyles of being out in the sun, different dress codes of not wearing shirts, and everyone okay with that, and being out where they had beautiful blue skies. They noticed that these people didn't have children with rickets, and this was the start of people realizing that if they didn't get enough sunlight on their body, it could greatly impact their health for the worse. So moving on to the beginning of the 1900s, there was this device that was created in Copenhagen where they actually cured lupus vulgaris. So lupus vulgaris is also known as tuberculosis luposa. This is a disease where the infected person gets painful skin lesions with nodule appearances, most often on the face, around the nose, eyelids, lips, cheeks, ears, and neck. Ugh. I'll do you a favor right now and say don't Google photos of lupus vulgaris. I feel so terrible for people who have this disease. It's actually the most common Mycobacterium tuberculosis skin infection too. Now, this device that was created was able to cure this nasty looking skin disease by capturing daylight in a mirror tunnel. That guided the light to the disease part of the skin. That's crazy. Took light through a mirror tunnel and directed it directly onto the skin and was able to cure this disease. They also found that if you put a lamp with a certain light frequency and intensity, and again used a mirror, that you could also use electric light instead of sunlight to cure the skin. And this was the beginning of light therapy, which has only until very recently gotten really popular. It's amazing. This invention was so groundbreaking that it actually won the Nobel Prize in 1903. Thank you so much, Mr. Niels Ryberg Finsen from Copenhagen. Another incredible story about sunlight involves famous fashion designer Coco Chanel. She was on the way to a fashion fair in Paris, and she was on a sailboat. And the story goes that she has fallen asleep on the deck of that sailboat. Now, back in her time, all the wealthy and rich people were very fair and light-skinned, while all the poor people who had to work out in the sun, hard labor, they were all very tan. Well, when Coco woke up on the boat, she had quite the tan from her fair skin being out in the sun for too long. When she showed up at this fashion fair, everyone was so impressed. They were like, oh, look at Coco. She looks so tan and so beautiful. And because she was such a huge fashion icon, many people say that this is where that shift happened from people wanting to be fair-skinned to people wanting to be darker-skinned. Oh, how we love to follow those icons. The only problem with this was that those who were very light-skinned went into the sun and created too much skin damage way too fast, and this is where we saw a rise in skin cancer. When will we learn that trying to do something too fast, too quickly, it's not the best route to go? The rich people started to go on vacations and get all that beautiful sun, and then the poor people started to work inside, and the shift in desired skin color started to take place. This reminds me of when, back in the day when people used to be overweight, and that used to be a sign of wealth and status, and then somehow it got flip-flopped with the advancement of processed foods, and now everybody could join the weight gain train. So skinny was the new fit. So we can see from our history of light that it has a huge impact on our health, from curing rickets and skin disease to being powerful enough to cause skin cancer. Let's fast forward to present day. If we look at the spectrum of light during the day, you'll see a lot of blue and green represented. And then as we shift more towards the nighttime, you lose all the blue and green, and the spectrum becomes mostly reds. Now, when we look at this spectrum of light from our light bulbs that we use during the day, it has a very large amount of blue light and actually almost no red. These lights are so great at illuminating even during daytime, but what does that do at night? We should definitely be thinking about changing the nighttime lights as that sun sets. Remember, our biology still thinks that we are creatures rising and going to sleep with the sun. However, if right now we can take that sun factor away and always light up our living space with artificial, mostly blue light, then our brains perceive it as never nighttime. And what does that do to our biology? Well, we have now discovered that you can influence your biology with the intensity of light as well. So standing on the beach, looking out over the horizon and getting as much sunlight as that, we know now that that directly affects our health. We also know through scientific studies that the color of light can influence our emotion. The color. So how powerful is that? Right now, the trend of using red light and infrared light is super popular, whether it be for skin health or body composition goals or relaxation, to a myriad of other things. It's hot right now, red light therapy. And I actually love the science behind it. However, just like with anything in health, we always seem to take a little bit of scientific research supporting just something little, and then we take it to the extremes and we put it on this pedestal and say that this is the end-all, be-all, best thing in health ever. I mean, you can go on Amazon right now, and if you search red light skin therapy, they have masks, they have light bulbs, they have little wands and panels, you name it. Most of these are cheap gimmicks and have no effect on your health at all, except maybe the placebo effect. We always know that there's that placebo effect. So here's the science behind red light. So we know that when you exercise, we help to create a more robust network of mitochondria. These are the powerhouses of the cell, right? But when we are just now discovering that red light and infrared light are great ways to take care and strengthen those mitochondria, Newton's law of conservation of energy says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change its form. Well, plants transform sunlight into energy through photosynthesis. And it turns out that human cells are very similar in this regard. When our cells absorb light energy, it sparks a chemical reaction in the mitochondria deep in the cell to create more ATP. You guys know ATP. This is our reusable form of energy. So, in the same way that plants can use sunlight and solar panels can take solar energy and turn it into electrical energy, well, we can take red light energy and generate more ATP. So, what makes red and infrared light so special? Well, if you look at the full spectrum of light from the sun, you start with the blue, and then you move to the green and the yellow, and then slowly to red, and then the darker colors. Blue light has been found to only penetrate the first layer, or maybe one or two layers of skin, whereas the frequency and intensity of red, and especially infrared, that lighting can penetrate through all the layers of the skin, through muscle, and even into bone. Let me say that again. Blue light, one or two layers of skin. Red and especially infrared can penetrate all the layers of the skin, all the muscle, and even into bone. You don't believe me? Okay, well, if you're not driving, take out your phone right now and turn the flashlight on. If you put your finger or your thumb over the flashlight, what color do you see? You only see red light passing through. Your thumb or your finger turns red. That's crazy, right? Well, this is super important because the deeper the light can get, the more it can strengthen our mitochondria's ability to generate more ATP. And for us, that's to use as energy. Now, ATP is not only used to move the body. ATP is used as energy for every single biological process. From repairing or healing damaged soft connective tissue or bone, to communicating with macrophages that clear out damaged or defective cells, to even helping NK cells, natural killer cells, kill viruses and pathogens that enter our body. One of the most amazing things that they have found is with autoimmune diseases. You know how terrible these can be. And when you have better signaling with your cells and ATP, then they tell your body to calm down with attacking the good guys and stop behaving irrationally, and then signals an anti-inflammatory response. This is all done with the systematic effect of photobiomodulation. Photobiomodulation. This is just a very fancy word for light therapy. This is incredible, right? Other benefits of light therapy are the cells in our body will start to repair themselves, or if a damaged cell is unable to repair itself, it will tell that cell to self-destruct if it's too damaged after the time of exposure. So that's pretty cool. It'll either tell that cell to strengthen itself or to go away. It also assists in hair growth of people who are bald. It helps with dark skin spots, also wrinkles, and they believe cellulite. Although when I hear cellulite, I usually tend to be a little skeptical. So we'll see a little bit about that when they do more scientific studies. But we now have proof of its effects on skincare, as well as diabetes, Alzheimer's, sports and exercise performance, sleep, traumatic brain injury, recovery, wound healing, and literally the list keeps going. It's crazy. It sounds like magic. I know. But the science is there. Light does seem to have this incredible power. You just have to be careful. There are a lot of people out there taking advantage and selling you cheap knockoffs that don't work. You have to have the right wavelength and the right intensity of light to be able to penetrate deep enough into the cells in order for it to have any effect on the mitochondria. So if you're going to purchase any red light equipment, don't go cheap. Make the investment and definitely do the research on if this is the real deal, if it has the right wavelength and it has the right light intensity. I can't recommend enough. What I actually use is a Joovv light. Joovv is spelled Joovv. I purchased one for myself and I use it every single day. I love it, but they're definitely not cheap, I have to say. I had to actually save up for a really long time to be able to get one. And like I said, I use it every day. Its effects are cumulative. So just like exercise and meditation, the more you do it, the more that its benefits compound. However, if you don't go out and purchase a expensive red light equipment, you can always see the benefits simply by going outside and getting some sunlight. Just make sure you don't go overboard too fast like Coco did. A little bit of sunlight increased over time is the way to go. Just like exercise, you wouldn't just jump in on your first day of working out and do an Ironman race, would you? So be careful and work your way into getting out in the sun. Go for 5 minutes now, and then the next day go for 10, and then the next day work your way up a little bit longer. You just don't want to overstress your skin. If you get that feeling like, I wonder, it feels like I'm kind of starting to burn, well, then you're probably where you need to be, and you should definitely stay in the shade for the rest of the day. If you do burn, then you've gone too far. All you've done is now you've created this negative skin damage that it's going to peel, and now you have not created an adaptative response that the skin can strengthen from. You have to start all the way over. So go slow, be smart about it, and work your way up to getting more time in the sun. Number 2 on our list of 5 unconventional things you can do to help you live longer is for sure get some light. All right, moving on to number 3. Number 3 on our list is heat. Let's think about our daily lives right now. Our body is an adaptation machine. I'm going to say it 1,000 times. And it's designed to keep us at this homeostasis, this set point. So when we get really hot, processes in the body kick up to cool us down. And then vice versa, right? When we get cold, our body works hard to heat us back up. Now, fast forward to present day and think about your current lifestyle. We live in a time where we can control the temperature every single place we go. We have AC and we have heaters in your house, your cars, your place of work. We have clothes that you can put on when it's cold and take off when you're hot. But do you ever stop to think about what does that do for our resiliency? What does that do for the systems in the body that are responsible for adjusting to temperature change? Does the old saying of if you don't use it, you lose it apply here? Well, for me personally, I don't think you lose it, but I do think that you lose the ability to cope with those high heat or cold changes at the extremes. Just like exercise being a positive stress on the muscles that creates an adaptative response, both on the muscular and the cellular level, heat can do the same thing for us. Heat increases stress and therefore increases adaptation responses in the body. In a study done in 2006 called Hormetic Modulation of Aging and Longevity by Mild Heat Stress, that's a mouthful, they define aging as an accumulation of molecular and cellular damage. Over time, the cellular damage accumulates and failure by our bodies to repair and maintain these healthy cells, that molecular waste builds up. And once that occurs, what takes place is the onset of age-related diseases that start to happen in the body. So the accumulation of molecular and cellular damage builds, and that's how we start to get these aging-related diseases. That's crazy. So scientists right now are trying to figure out a way to repair these maintenance pathways, allowing us to better clear out all that damage buildup in our cells and our bodies, therefore, hopefully helping us live longer. And they believe that repetitive mild heat stress or heat shock that comes from sauna use or hydrotherapy or other forms of heat therapy, this form of treatment has anti-aging hormetic effects on growth and other cellular and biomechanical characteristics of human skin fibroblasts. So what are fibroblasts? Fibroblasts help to rebuild and repair cells in the body. So essentially, fibroblasts love heat, and heat helps them do their job better. So the more that they can do their job better, the more that they can clear all that molecular waste out and hopefully help us live longer and at least avoid those aging diseases that come with that molecular buildup. Now, this was all discovered in vitro, which means in a test tube, a culture disc, or somewhere not in the body. So it's not 100%, right? They're hoping that the same effects happen on fibroblasts inside our body, but that still remains to be seen. When our bodies absorb heat, blood flow is increased. The warming of our blood causes the blood vessels to dilate and get bigger. blood pressure is then reduced, and this can be within as short as 15 to 20 minutes of heat therapy use. So, reduce blood pressure in 15 to 20 minutes. That kind of sounds like some sort of over-the-counter drug commercial slogan or something, but you don't hear people talking about that when it comes to sauna use. Now, hydrotherapy is my favorite way to get heat when it comes to any type of heat therapy. I love spending time in a hot tub after a workout. And there are other people who just really love the sauna, and each one has their benefits, right? You can use a dry or wet sauna, or you can even stack your benefits by finding a true infrared sauna, and now you're getting the heat and the infrared lighting. If you ever have the ability after a workout, try this. Spend 15 to 20 minutes in a sauna, in a hot tub, or even in a bath, and focus on deep breathing and then some static stretching of the muscles that you worked out. Do this consistently for a couple of weeks, at least 2 to 4 times per week, and see if you notice any benefits. It has really helped me out. And I mean, there's so many things that it does that's not just the heat therapy. It's that time to just kind of decompress after taking your body into a huge sympathetic state from a workout and then dropping it down quickly, telling your body it's time to repair. I think it has a whole lot of benefits. Try it out. The only time I don't recommend heat is when you have an acute injury. Remember, an acute injury is usually the result of a specific impact or trauma that it occurs in one specific area in the body, such as a muscle joint or bone. With acute injuries, heat usually tends to create more damage because your body is already in full force bringing inflammation to the area, and heating has been shown to aggravate these acute injuries. So I would stay away from heat therapy for about 3 to 5 days after these types of injuries occur. There's a general rule that says if the injury is hot and swollen, don't heat it. And if the injury is stiff and not very mobile, don't use cold therapy. So kind of just don't use same with same there. Heat has also been shown to help with sleep. Sleep is one of our greatest weapons to help support our health, right? A hot shower or a hot sauna use right before bedtime has been shown to do wonders for our deep sleep. The way that this works is that as you go to sleep, your core temperature slowly drops. So if you can help this biological function by heating up the body 30 to 60 minutes before you slip into bed, then the body's cooling adaptation responses then kick in and allow you to drop in that temperature faster, creating a more beneficial sleeping body temperature more quickly. If you'd like to learn more about this in depth, check out the book Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. He has a whole chapter on temperature. So next on the list of 5 unconventional things you can do to help you live longer is the opposite of heat. Number 4 is cold. So we just learned about how important it is to create a repetitive bout of heat-related stress for our bodies, and the same is true for cold. The person that I like to follow for this topic is the Iceman himself, Mr. Wim Hof, Mr. Wim Hof, Hoff. He's known as the Iceman because he's tackled almost every cold-related challenge that this world has to offer. He believes that with cold, the breath, and the mind, you can essentially make yourself immune to any kind of sickness out there. Now, he may be a little on the crazy side, but this guy is legit. He holds 26 cold-related world records. He's climbed to Mount Everest in just his shorts. He's gone diving in frozen lakes and held his breath underwater for insane amounts of time. Check this out. He's even injected himself with a virus to show that his immune system and the use of cold could fight it off. And the crazy dude did it. He has proven that his outlandish acts are actual science-backed and not just crazy stunts. And he has tons of free content on his platforms. I highly recommend checking him out. He teaches you for free a lot of the times. Any of us can do it, he says. Now, one of the huge benefits of cold exposure is a process that happens in the body called Hunter's reflex. Hunter's reflex is an alternating vasoconstriction and vasodilation in the extremities exposed to the cold. So remember, vasoconstriction is the tightening of blood vessels, making them smaller, which increases blood pressure. And then dilate is the opposite, the expansion of blood vessels, decreasing blood pressure. Now, when the vasoconstriction response occurs, the body shuts off the blood flow to the limbs to conserve warmth for the body's core. This takes all the blood from the extremities and gives your vital organs this form of what some experts call a vascular massage. It also boosts brown adipose tissue in the body. This is also known as bat fat. Brown adipose tissue. Remember, adipose tissue is the body fat that we hold. Brown adipose tissue is bat fat, B-A-T. Now, regular adipose tissue is a pretty huge enemy in our society this day and age of obesity and morbid obesity. But brown adipose tissue is actually something that you want more of. It is brown because it has such a dense population of iron-rich mitochondria. Brown fat is a recently discovered organ in humans. Why is it called an organ? Well, because just like the heart, whose job it is to pump blood to the body, and the stomach, which is responsible for digesting food, brown fat also has a job to do. Its job is to take the stored fat that it holds onto and burns up that fat to keep us warm. So brown fat is different than other fats because obviously, yes, the color, it's darker because of the mitochondria, but it also stores fat only temporarily with the goal of taking that fat and burning it up at a moment's notice just to keep us warm whenever we need it. Now, the other fat in the body is white fat, and its job is to store this fat and slowly leak it out and release it over time when a person hasn't eaten. This white fat releases its contents to be used as energy, but what is the problem here? Well, we rarely need to use these fat stores nowadays, and therefore they accumulate and are not called upon to release its contents due to our ease and access to calorie-rich processed foods. And this is where we start that path to obesity. So brown fat, good. Bat fat, white adipose tissue, not so good for what we need for most of us nowadays. Now, one of the more interesting occurrences in the body's response to cold shock therapy is it has been shown to have a robust impact on the increase in norepinephrine. Now, low levels of norepinephrine have been associated with depression. And once norepinephrine levels increase in the depressed individuals, the symptoms of depression are proven to be made better. So if you have low norepinephrine, you start to get those symptoms of depression. And then as soon as those levels of norepinephrine are increased, those symptoms go away. In fact, if you take an antidepressant right now, prescribed from your doctor, it is more than likely just a norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. And what that means is that pill is just increasing your norepinephrine. It's not a depression pill. It's not trying to cure your depression. What it's trying to do is it's trying to increase your norepinephrine, meaning that we know that norepinephrine is great for helping with the symptoms of depression. So what cold shock therapy experts are discovering is that with the help of cold shock therapy, they can increase this norepinephrine in people with severe depression without using pharmaceuticals that come with all the side effects. That's so legit to me. Doing something more naturally rather than putting something in our body that could have those side effects. And my favorite thing about cold therapy is that its proven ability to strengthen the immune functions of the body. Many of us live highly inflamed lives. Inflammation is one of the largest problems in our society as it is involved in both obesity and heart disease. And this brings me to how I personally use cold therapy right now. Many people use cryotherapy and many people use ice baths. And I found these to be very interesting modalities. And I love the feeling of coming out of a cryotherapy session and you just feel energized and you feel like your body is just tingly and all sorts of you feel like something happened there. And I've definitely done my fair share of ice baths, more than I can count in my many years of playing college basketball. But cryotherapy can be a little pricey, right? And you have to drive somewhere. You have to take that extra little step to do it. And ice baths are very tough to set up on a frequent basis. Think about it. You have to fill your bathtub with ice, or you have to have a cooler or something that you can jump in. It's not very practical for most of us. What I actually prefer to do are good old-fashioned cold shower treatments. Now, yes, cold showers cannot get anywhere close to as cold as those other modalities. But to be honest, most of us haven't done this kind of cold treatment on a consistent basis to where we really need to be jumping into those really low temperature modalities. And the cold showers have been found to have great benefits on the topics that we just went over without breaking the bank and with as minimal setup as you can find. It's the easiest thing that you can do. And until you get the cash flow to have a cryotherapy tank in your house, this could be a great way to work your way towards it. So if you shower in the morning, try to take the last 30 seconds of the shower and make it as cold as it can possibly go. Get both your back and your front. Make sure you hit your chest, your upper back, your neck, even the top of your head. Make sure you focus on your breath. As soon as you do this, it's going to take your breath away. You're going to go, but you have to concentrate on full, deep breaths. I know it's harder said than done. Wim Hof teaches very, very good practices here. If you want to search anything, he's on YouTube. He's got his own website. I recommend if you struggle with your breath during cold showers, go ahead and check out some of his strategies. So each morning, try to add 5 to 10 seconds more than the last time you did it and see how high you can get yourself up. I like to do a strategy of 10 seconds on my front, and then I turn around 10 seconds on my back, and I just flip it over, making sure that I get my head as well. You can also do another strategy of hot, cold intervals. So 30 seconds warm and then 30 seconds cold. Do that for 5 to 10 rounds, and you're going to see a jolt of energy that even caffeine can't offer. It's going to be uncomfortable, but the clarity that it brings is better than any brain boosting supplement. And my favorite benefit of the cold shower is there's just something to be said for training your willpower and doing something that every inch of you and every inch of your being says that this is going to be uncomfortable, and just doing it anyway. Once you have mastered the cold shower, then you can start to graduate to some of the more colder variations of therapy. Give it a shot. Let me know how it goes for you. I would love to hear the feedback. So number 3 and 4 on our list of 5 unconventional things we can do to help us live longer are hot and cold. And this brings us to our 5th and final item on our list. And number 5 is drink more good water. Okay, I know drinking water isn't all that unconventional. We pretty much all know that that's important, but I feel like it is still largely overlooked, even though the science and the word is out about how important it really is. I still get people telling me that they struggle to get their water intake down, and I still get people telling me that they don't like the taste of water. What does that even mean? Water doesn't have a taste, you guys. What are you talking about? So even if this isn't as unconventional as earthing or light therapy is, I still think it's an important thing to put on this list. Water is everywhere. Water is the elixir to life. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered in water. There is water in the soil, in the plants, in the air, and yes, in our bodies. Up to 60% of the human body is water. And fun fact here, human babies are made up of an even higher percentage. Babies are up to 75% water, 3/4, but they drop all the way down to 65 by their first birthday. The water in our bodies do many jobs, from taking care of the brain and the spinal cord, to regulating temperature, to cushioning your joints in your body. Water is in the blood and in our vital organs. 2 of your most important organs, arguably, your heart and your brain, are made up of 75% water. Your lungs have up to 83% water. And even the bones that are hard as rock and seemingly dry, bones can be made up of 31% water. This is a lot of water, right? And it's important for us to replace that water as we lose it throughout the day. The average person loses up to 3 liters a day through sweat, urine, bowel movements, and of course, the air that you breathe. Remember, we explored this when we talked about how we lose body fat in episode 1 of this podcast. So the air that we breathe definitely has water in it. So if we lose up to 3 liters a day, depending on your activity level, and if you're a crazy sweater like me, you know that you're losing more than that. But we definitely have to compensate for the loss in fluid. If you've ever been to a point of near dehydration, then you know what I mean. It's not comfortable. Here's another fun fact. Experts in survival talk about the rule of 3s. This states in general that on average, a human can survive only about 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. So Now, of course, there are the crazy stories of outliers who can go way longer than those times, but the general rule of 3 fits the average person. 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. So we know water is important, but let's talk about how to optimize the water that we're putting into our body. There are definitely ways to have higher quality water than others. Think Oregon spring water or Mexico water. First, let's discuss how much water you should be intaking a day. If you know me at all, you know that I don't go anywhere without my water bottle. I can't recommend enough finding a water bottle that you don't mind carrying around with you everywhere that you go. Every time I leave the house, I literally do a 4-point check: keys, phone, wallet, water bottle. For me, I have worked my way up to holding a 64-ounce gallon size water bottle. It's huge, right? A half gallon. I absolutely love it, but I realize this doesn't work for everyone. You have to do what works for you. And if all you can commit to is a 12-ounce small water bottle, that's totally okay. You have to meet yourself where you're at. But I have found that the larger the water bottle, the easier it is for me to drink my daily water goals. One good thing about the smaller water bottles is that you have to take more trips to refill it, allowing you to get more movement throughout the day and more steps to your overall daily activity, which is also super important for those of us that have body fat loss goals and those of us that have desk jobs or sedentary jobs. But a lot of the time, those small water bottles, if I were to guess, once they get emptied, they kind of just sit there either on your desk or your counter or whatever, and they remain empty for the rest of the day, which is obviously not what we're looking for here. Well, there are many different suggestions for how much water each person should drink. And as always, with health and fitness and nutrition, everything is individualized. Everything is individualized. So what works for me might not work for you, but there are general recommendations. One way to know if you're drinking enough is to look at the color of your urine, right? This is definitely a good way to do it. It's not my favorite personally. I feel like this is more of a reactionary strategy, and I definitely like the proactive style of health better. I'd rather prevent dehydration early rather than just checking my urine to see if the damage has already been done. But that's just me. Your urine should be clear to light yellow, and if it ever starts getting too dark yellow, it means your urine is super concentrated and you better start getting that water in. Another way for you to know how much water to drink is to take your body weight in pounds, divide that by 2, and that should be the minimum amount of ounces you should be drinking a day. So if you're a 150 person, what's 150 divided by 2? That's 75. That 150 pound person should drink at least 75 ounces of water a day. So just over a half gallon. The big thing here is that you're spreading the water out throughout the day. If you haven't drank water all day and then you try to catch up at night by chugging 75 ounces before you go to bed to get your daily intake number, well, you won't be sleeping much because you'll be getting up every hour to pee. That water is it's not going to have a chance to get into your system. It's going to go straight through you if you chug it. Also, don't be scared to overhydrate by going over half your body weight in ounces. I know that there's that story out there that people can overhydrate and kill themselves from drinking too much water, but let me tell you, this is very, very rare. Especially if you're fairly active or you live in a hot climate, as long as you're not chugging large amounts of water all at once, you could totally drink up to your body weight in ounces if you spread it out through the entire day and be just fine. I myself drink around 200 to 250 ounces of water a day. That's like a 1.5 to 2 gallons, which I know is definitely on the high side for most people. And yes, I do pee quite frequently, but I just love what water adds to my health. I used to get headaches all the time. I used to be sluggish. I used to run out of gas at the end of the day. And I swear by water, I think that it has really added a lot of benefits to my life. So get that water in. One thing I like to remind people is that if you're someone that is starting a resistance training program and you're building or toning the muscles on your body, and at the same time you're increasing your water intake, you will weigh more when you step on a scale. This is a good thing, I promise you. Muscle holds onto water, and it's a really good thing that it does. I've seen this countless times where someone starts a fitness program and someone starts doing everything that they think is healthy for their body, and then 2 weeks after they start, they step on the scale and they are just horrified that they actually gained weight. Friends, listen, weight is not the enemy. Body fat is the enemy. Who cares if your muscles are holding on to more water weight? That's a good thing. We have to stop with looking at the scale and using weight as the only metric for your health and your body fat loss goals. If we take a 150-pound person and one that weighs 40% body fat and the other 150-pound person has 20% body fat, they look extremely different, even though they weigh the same. So moving on, what types of water should we drink? There are a couple of things we want to think about here. If you're someone that likes to buy bottled water, did you know that the only requirement by law for bottled water is that it's only as good, at least as good as tap water? It just has to be tap water quality or better. But now they are also putting it in plastic, which makes it worse. So while yes, glass bottles are kind of bougie and they are kind of expensive, I do tend, if I'm going to get bottled water, to pick more towards those types. You should also think about your house water supply and what's in the water that comes out of your faucet, right? If you don't get a filter for your tap water, then you become the filter. Do you know what's in your water at home? Well, it could be anything, right? It's whatever they put in the water, the fluoride, the chemicals, the minerals, all that stuff. Now, there are test kits that you can get online that will tell you exactly what's in your water. And I've heard some pretty gnarly stories of people who live by fields that get sprayed or by golf courses that put the chemicals on the grass that seeps into the water system and goes right into the people's houses and end up getting them sick. Now, I know this is kind of dramatic and I don't want to scare people, but just think about what's in the water that you're drinking and is there anything that I can do to help make it better for me? So the expert that I like to follow on this type of stuff is Ben Greenfield. Ben Greenfield's the man. He's like the biohacking god. He does everything you can think of. He's known for pretty much biohacking everything in his life, and he knows that whatever he does with each individual variable change, how it affects the body, and what he recommends is a reverse osmosis filter. I personally don't have one of those, but he says that this is the gold standard if you're going to get a filter. For me, the gold standard is just spring water. There aren't many around, so it's hard to get for sure. But if you can get good natural spring water, there's nothing better than that. I actually drive a little bit north, about 30 to 45 minutes north of where I live, up to a really cool small town north of me called Carlsbad, California. And I bring a couple of 5-gallon jugs and fill them up every so often. There's also a website called findaspring.com if you want to see if there's anything close to you. Now, if you can't get spring water, that's okay. You're definitely lucky if you can. But for those who can't, just make sure that you get a water purifier or order from a company that you trust. I personally drink Sparklet's water. I rent out one of the water towers that they have, and they deliver 4 5-gallon jugs to me every 2 weeks. And this is actually a perfect way to see if I'm drinking more or less water each week. So when I know how much water I have each delivery cycle, sometimes at the very end I have none left, and sometimes I have like a half of a jug left, and I know that I'm behind on what I usually drink. So that's a cool way for me to kind of tell if over a full 2-week period, if I'm low or high on water, which makes me concentrate on drinking water for the next couple of days if I'm lower, which is always helpful, right? A lot of people ask me about alkaline water, but there's still not a lot of research to show any evidence that it is more or less beneficial than regular water. So on a pH scale, right, you have basic and you have acidic. It goes from 0 to 14. 0 would be acidic, like lemons and fruits, and then 14 would be like higher, basic, avocados, potatoes, stuff like that. Water is right in the middle at 7. And then alkaline water is just a tad higher towards the basic side at 8.5 or 9. Of all the research that I've done, and I can't really find anything that shows it's more healthy than regular water. So if anyone out there has more information on that, please send me a message and I'll follow up later on another podcast. So in closing, I feel like more now than ever, we're always looking for that next biohack that can help us be healthier and happier and more fit. We want that easy fix and all these little things that we can throw into our lifestyle. And while I do believe that the 5 unconventional things that we just listed, they definitely have helped me improve my life immensely, I do believe that they're smaller rocks compared to the giant boulders and pillars of health that are movement, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and breath work. So if you're struggling with a goal that you can't figure out why you can't hit, first work on the big boulders, because these smaller rocks will not create much change in your life if you only focus on the smaller rocks. You got to do the big boulders first. Or better yet, stack a small rock with a big boulder, right? You could get the most bang for your buck that way. For example, movement and light therapy. Movement, walking outside in the sun. This is a great stack and can have huge benefits on your health. Or maybe you go with a nutritious picnic at a park or on the beach, and that's earthing and nutrition. Or maybe it's breath work and meditation in a sauna. Now you have stress management and heat therapy. Boom, stacking it. I can't recommend enough stacking your day with two things at the same time. I essentially plan out my entire day, making sure that I can get the most bang for my buck when it comes to, my time. I even have a big bag of tiny little plastic flossers, tooth flossers, in the center console of my car, and I floss my teeth on my drive to work. So not only am I listening to a podcast and learning, but I'm performing dental hygiene that I usually struggle to do at home, and it's all on the way to work. I have to do that anyway. So when my dentist asks if I floss, I'm actually the guy that can truthfully answer, yeah, I floss 1 to 2 times a day. Anyways, let's get outside and move our body. Invest in yourself today, even if it's just 15 minutes of grounding and reducing that charge in your body, or maybe it's just taking a nice warm shower or bath right before you go to bed. Work on the big rocks and throw some of these 5 unconventional things in your routine. And as always, let me know if I can help in any way. All right, Dream Team, that's it for today. Please share with me any knowledge, thoughts, or questions you may have on today's topic. I'll make sure to answer and discuss on the next episode. You can ask your questions in the comments section or message me on any of the social media platforms. Also, I would be so thankful if you shared this episode with any of your friends or family that may be able to benefit from today's podcast. I would love it if you could do me a solid and screenshot this podcast and share it on your social media platforms and just write one takeaway, one aha moment that you got from this episode. This will help me know what's really valuable to you, and so I can keep the good information coming. And it also lets your network know if this podcast is worth a listen to them. Thank you so much for listening and learning here with us on the Livin the Dream podcast. We are so grateful for you being a part of this lifelong learning journey. If you have any topics you'd like to discuss, please let us know in the comments or by messaging me on Instagram at CoachDamian_SD. Be kind to someone today, smile at someone today, and leave every person you come into contact with better than before. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.